Hello, my most awesome friends. Welcome to What is Agile? Today, I'll be walking you through, yes, what exactly Agile is. So join me on this journey. Agile is first and foremost a mindset that translates into actions. Those actions generate certain behaviors, and those behaviors become culture. That's what we want. We want actions, behaviors, and culture. And I call that the ABCs of Agile. Now, when Agile becomes a culture, there are certain things we do in the organization, certain things that we do as we walk through the world of work. We don't even necessarily have to call it a project. We look at it as a world of work. And the very first thing that we do in this world of work is we want to understand what are we working on and why. I think of this first stage as absolutely critical. It is the what, the when, the where, the who, the why, the how of what you're doing. You could call it a product, you could call it a service, you could call it a result. Whatever it is, there needs to be a solid vision. The vision, when clear, will translate into those outcomes that we're looking for, but not until we have a very clear understanding of the vision and a very clear understanding of a product strategy that supports that vision. You should ask, what are we trying to achieve and why? How will this affect the customer? What is the end game? What is the end goal? And then the how becomes more apparent. But we start off with a vision. After the vision, I have a couple of steps here, and I call this 2A and 2B. 2A and 2B are what we call chartering. And chartering in the world of Agile is twofold. One, there should be a solid Agile project charter. The Agile project charter encapsulates the vision. It's not enough to just say what the vision is, it has to be encapsulated in some sort of document so that people can read and understand. In addition to the Agile chartering, we do a team charter. A team charter is also known as a social contract or a team contract. It's also known as a team agreement, and they're all the same. They contain ground rules and group norms. They also contain things that we talk about in the world of Agile, such as the definition of ready and the definition of done. Those things could be baked in to a team charter, so the team has a solid way of working. Now, somewhere along the line, it's not going to be a straight line. This could actually come before these, depending on the firm. But the idea is that we already have a stable team, especially for organizations that are already in this world of agility. Over here, I have a few names on these steps, like the product owner and the business, the product owner and the business. But to be quite honest, for the team charter, I would like to change that to the product owner and more of the team, not the business, but the team. Now, why am I saying that it's more of the team? Well, think about it. When you're putting together a charter for the people who will be doing the work, the people who will be doing the work are the team. Now, in the world of Agile, you're going to hear little nuances when it comes to this term team. You're going to hear Scrum team, and the Scrum team refers to the product owner, the Scrum master, and the developers. And then you're also going to loosely hear the word team. And the team just means everyone, right? So in this instance, when you think about it, the people doing the work should be the people who put together their way of working, how they want things to go. But it's not just the developers in isolation, it's everyone. I also want to call your attention to the fact that not everyone is in a world of Scrum. So when you look at this, understand that this is trying to be more agnostic than just in the world of Scrum. And for that reason, we have T for team. So product vision, agile project charter, team charter, and then we have a product roadmap. A roadmap is a map showing how you'll get from your beginning state to your future state. But when we see product roadmaps, they're usually like this with some layers or bars, almost looking like a Gantt chart and showing you when certain activities will happen, whether it's Q1 or Q2 and things like that. And that's what a roadmap looks like. And the roadmap is also something that helps us in our next step, which is a release plan, because the roadmap should echo the release plan. I should say the release plan should echo the roadmap. So the roadmap is overarching. In your roadmap, you understand when these releases happen, when marketing efforts happen, when release 1 will happen, when release 2 will happen, and so on and so forth. So your release plan should implicitly be in here in your roadmap in some way. Should you have dates in your roadmap? I think so, especially since you're coming from the world of predictive. It is good practice to know at least a time frame. Give it a Q1 or a Q2 or Q3 or Q4 at worst, but don't leave it hanging. Don't leave it arbitrary, okay? So your release plan will come before you get into other things like an iteration plan, which I could have put here, an iteration plan, right? Because your iteration plan in the world of Scrum, we call it a sprint plan. So it really depends on what you're working on, but eventually you will get to sprint planning or iteration planning. And this is where you will put together that plan. So release plans, we have our product backlog. We begin putting that together. Sprint planning comes in at some point. It really depends. Different organizations have their own way. But the idea should be you've at least got some idea of your backlog, and then you can plan for the sprint. Sometimes a backlog already exists way in the beginning. So just remember that a lot of this stuff is dependent on the firm and is iterative, okay? The backlog is getting populated all the time. So even if you have a backlog in the beginning, just remember it's always going to get updated and things are going to move around. After sprint planning, it's like go ahead, execute. We have our daily scrum where we answer the 3 questions. Or we walk the board. What did you do yesterday to move us towards our sprint goal? What are you doing today to move us towards the goal? And are there any impediments? Or you could just choose to walk the board, right? Simple Kanban board to do, doing, done. You've got all your tickets there, whatever is being worked on, right? And then we talk about what is closest to being done and we walk the board. And different teams have ways they walk the board. Just remember that this is not a status meeting. We talk about backlog refinement because your backlog needs to be refined. If your backlog isn't refined and you come into the sprint planning, let's say on a Monday morning or whenever it is, you could have a rude shock when you realize you got so many epics and features that need further breaking down. And before you know it, you spend a whole lot of time in working on what you should have in the middle of the sprint. I put the product owner here as being the accountable person. The product owner is that person who is belly button accountable for the product backlog and decides on the outcomes of the product's backlog items. The potentially shippable increment will follow because as work is being done, right, you're eventually going to get your PSI, your potentially shippable increment. Why do we say potentially? Because it may not be featured enough to ship. It could be that we're done with what we targeted to do, but the item is not featured enough to ship. Just keep that in mind. The next thing that happens is a sprint review. This is where our customer, our stakeholders, they are there in attendance. We demo what we have created, but it's not just to demo, it's actually to have them take a look and give comments and feedback. This could be a very productive meeting. We do not want to relegate this to just showing off what we did. Instead, look at this as a conduit for additional stories that we could glean from our end users and our customer that could end up going into the backlog. The last thing that happens in this world is a retrospective within that sprint or the iteration. The retrospective is a look in the rearview mirror to say what went well, what didn't go so well, what can we do better? There is going to be a question at some point. Let's say here, all value achieved. And if the answer is no, then you're going to go back to continue with the next sprint, right? If the answer is yes, then when all is said and done, you move into a final release. And this is where you finally close out the endeavor and your final release goes into orbit. Bear in mind, there are other steps that I have not covered. There are other concepts such as story mapping, which I have not shown you here. There are other concepts such as user story writing, which I have not shown you here. But wait, there's a solution. Do you know that if you go on down to 360.pmradio.org, do you know that you can get a 4-hour half-day simulation of Agile? We call it Agile 360. And what we're doing there is we're showing you how this entire flow happens from beginning to end. You're going to learn a boatload of stuff. And we have one coming up this weekend, so you don't want to miss it. Going down to 360.pmradio.org, sign up at that early bird pricing, and you're going to learn 21 steps. I only show you 12 here, but in the training, you're going to get 21 steps in the world of Agile. And you know the cool thing? You're going to learn how to do this hands-on. We're going to give you assignments. We're going to give you roles to play. There's going to be role play. There's going to be scenarios. By the time we are done, you are going to feel very confident about this world of Agile, because it's one thing to read about Agile. And trust me, I got certified. My first certification in this world of Agile was back in 2011. And honestly, for the longest time, I really didn't have a firm, solid grasp. You know why? Because it takes someone to have been in your shoes, struggling and spluttering for air, to know how to teach someone like them. So my buddy Roy, who is my Agile coach, I call him my Agile genie in a bottle, he showed me how it actually works, my buddy Roy. And as a result of Roy's coaching and mentoring and training and me working with him and training with him, I learned the right way. And I'm talking about years. Like Roy started working with us at Praizion in 2014, and it wasn't until 2019 I started realizing, hey, you need to learn because you got a wrong sense, a wrong reality. So, my friends, if this sounds like something you want to do, like go through all the 21 steps of Agile, you're going to learn Kanban, you're going to learn how to do Scrum, you're going to learn how the executive decisions and ideas in Agile get made. That is something you need to be on, my friends. Because I know lots of you, your ACPs, your CSMs, your PSM, but you ain't never been on a real beginning to end Agile endeavor. And therefore, you don't know the genesis, some of the other bits and pieces I haven't spoken about, like scaling and transformations. You need to know that stuff. I'm a buddy Roy. He's going to walk us through it. So why don't you go on down to 360.pmradio.org and let's have a big old Agile simulation party. There's nothing like this out there, I'm telling you. There's nothing like this. And you're also going to get my book called Agile 360 Simulation. And that PDF, you're going to use that for life, I can assure you, because it's going to be evergreen. It's very agnostic. And it's pretty much what you see is what you get. It's very straightforward with all of the scripts and all of the simulations. You're going to get that as part of this course by PDF. So what are you waiting for? Jump on the bandwagon. Let's begin the party. Agile 360 simulation. So my friends, that's pretty much all I had for you today. I wanted you to understand, that this world of Agile is very different from the world of predictive. Predictive is just that, more predictive, right? Because you got the inputs, tools, techniques, but Agile is more of a mindset, and then the practices and the frameworks, all that stuff, the way it builds in is very different. All right. One more time, I have carved out the people involved. So I have the product owner and the business with the Agile charter, the entire team with that, product owner and business perhaps with that, release plan. You could have a little bit of team involvement there. The backlog, uh, everyone involved. Sprint planning is for the team. Daily Scrum is for the team. Like when I say team, I mean Scrum team, the 3 individuals there. Backlog refinement, yes, the other folks, the developers could help, but the belly button accountability is a product owner. PSI, that's a team thing because they're working that. Sprint review is everyone on the team and the business. Retro is just a team. And the final close, hopefully the end of the year, you're going to get to December and you're going to be able to do a final whenever that is. And it might not be December, it could be anytime, along your yearly timeline. But that's pretty much it. In all seriousness, like a final close of whatever you're working on, that may actually include additional stakeholders because you have release managers, you have operations people. So if I was really going to be serious, I would just say all, because when I say all, I mean everyone in the firm, and whenever you get done, there's some sort of handover and then they take it from there. If you are in a world where there's development and operations under one roof and there's DevOps, well, you're stuck with that product for life. So you better make sure you develop it good. All right, my friends, thank you for joining me today. Again, remember, my buddy Roy and I this weekend, we are looking forward to having you on the program. Again, it's Agile 360, and it's called 360 because we're looking at every single nook and cranny, going through everything to help you, whether you're doing the ACP or you're doing the PMP or you're doing the CAPM or you're doing the PGMP or you're doing the risk management professional or you're doing the schedule management professional or you're doing the portfolio. I could go on and on. What am I trying to say? It's for everyone, even my OPM3 friends. Look, this has never been done before in this format. Okay? If you want the full story, you want to stop guessing. Where does it begin? Where did the backlog come from? All your questions. We are going in on all your questions. Okay? So come over. Let's have a party and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye for now.